Okay, we'll call this meeting together at 4:03. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 26th that Sarah was nice enough to do for us?
These things.
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second. Oh, I can't.
Yeah, so I will elevate both Bill and Rich. And let's do that first because we are missing people, and then you can make that motion. Okay, so Bill makes that motion. Sarah, are you up to doing the minutes again, or would you
Yeah,
prefer
it'll
somebody
keep me-
else?
It'll keep me awake.
That's fine.
How you feeling, Tara?
Crummy.
Good.
Thank you for being here.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Bill makes the motion. Can I have a second on the minutes motion?
A second.
Okay, thanks, Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, excellent. I don't think we have any public, so we don't have to worry about public comment. Communication strategy and messaging plan. So we heard from Ken, and then Jonathan actually sent me, somebody's got some background stuff happening, so.
Every now and again, I feel like feel like something's trying to attack me, but it's not attacking me.
Get some orange juice. You have orange juice on. This is drink orange juice with
I have
vitamin D,
I've been taking zinc.
zinc, all of
Well, I
those.
take all that stuff every day anyway.
Is that you, Eric, maybe? Have you got
What?
somebody talking in the background?
Yeah, in the other room. Yeah.
Yeah, it's picking it up.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. You might have to, all right. So I'm going to share my screen because I tried to put Ken's comments and Jonathan's comments together, and then we can, hopefully I got the right. All right, can you guys see that? There's some comments on the side and highlighted stuff, so. Oh, shoot, let me stop because I got the wrong one. I was trying to do this one. Sorry, thought I was organized. Okay. All right. Okay. Get us back up to the top of the page. So we were lucky in that Sarah Chase, who has a background in communications, was willing to put this draft together for us. And I think it's a really good launch pad for us to come up with communication strategy and a messaging plan. So I'd say we just go through this. I did not put it in our folder because it is a draft, and according to the Freedom of Information, we do not have to share a draft document until it's finalized. And I think we're probably going to make changes to this, so I didn't want to have it out there and people, thinking it's a done deal, because obviously we're going to change things. So, so first thing is primary objectives. I guess before I jump into this, is there anything anybody on the call wants to say generally about this? I did put your comments at the very end of the document, so we wouldn't lose the ones you emailed us.
Okay.
So they're at the very end of the document, and I can reshare this with everybody after we're done today. So those of you who are on the call, is there anything in general that you want us to think about with this communication strategy? Or you want to jump right into this?
Let's jump in.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Everybody feel the same way?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, so primary objectives, we've got raise awareness about the benefits of high-speed broadband, educate the community on the necessity broadband for economic development. Jonathan wanted us to put in property values. So that's a proposed change. Education, quality of life. He also wanted to add in under 4, an understanding that the timelines to encourage, support, and deploy new broadband technologies is long, hence requiring early planning.
Right. I think it's very good.
Mm-hmm. And then, so under key messages, both Ken and Jonathan had a couple of changes here. So, so we've got under economic growth, we've got high-speed broadband will attract new businesses and support existing ones, boosting the local economy. Ken has suggested it is also critical in attracting young families in maintaining competitive property values. And Jonathan wants us to include home values are impacted by the availability, quality, and expense of best-in-class broadband.
May I ask, what is table stakes?
I don't
mean?
know. I don't know. We'll have to ask him for clarity on that.
Okay.
I just got this in writing from him because he said he wouldn't be able to attend.
Okay, those kind of duplicate each other. So we need some drafting there to kind of combine. I'm saying maintaining competitive property values, and then the next comment is repetitive. It's a little more detailed. So somebody needs to do some wordsmithing to
Okay.
combine those two.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't edit anything. I just dumped it all together. So then education, and then we've got quality of life. So reliable internet will improve healthcare access, entertainment options, and overall connectivity. Achieving this is at an affordable cost like affordable housing is key to maintaining an economically diverse community. From Ken. And then Jonathan wanted to add in technology advancements. The demand placed on broadband services by consumers and businesses has been continuously growing for 2 decades, and there are no signs of this trend slowing. I think that's a good message because we verbally have talked about that. And then we've got future proofing from Sarah Chase. Future technological advancements ensure sustainability. And then from Jonathan, current state of broadband in Kent. Kent is highly dependent on a single supplier and service options are limited in comparison to both urban environments and some other Connecticut municipalities. The rural low density population of the town makes the deployment and economics of broadband more challenging. I think that's a good thing for us to talk about because we need to tell people where we're at right now. Yeah. So Jonathan wanted to add in, he wanted to add in a reference to homeowners under general public. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I wait a second. I think we ought to also put nonprofit institutions which support affordability in the community. Which support affordable living in the community or something like that.
Well, isn't that part of a quality of life issue, Ken? I mean, nonprofits do add.
It's a target. I just think it's a target audience.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, a local business, but when you're talking about the people that are impacted by affordable living, those individuals are generally represented by nonprofit organizations or other organizations, and that's who we ought to encourage them. They need to be expanding their definition of affordability.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. Is there any other target audiences that we might need to include? Or you think we got it covered? Okay. So communication channels, I thought that made sense. And then we're getting into the planning, the action steps and planning. I don't think, I didn't see much from Jonathan on these, but let's talk about this. So, Sarah's suggestion was we form a subcommittee or a working group, to get this messaging out, and develop key messages and content, and then start actually developing articles and social media posts and informational brochures, and develop a frequently asked questions to address common concerns and questions. Do you guys agree with that idea?
I agree with the idea, but I just want to point out that this is a very time consuming and it's a very large undertaking. And I'm just a little reluctant that unless we really expand the resources that we can put to this, it's going to be a bit of a pipe dream.
Well, I mean, isn't expanding the resources getting other people that are willing to work on it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we're not going to get a lot of money. We didn't put any money in the budget for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first thing to probably do is to put something in Marty's newsletter and put it on the town website that we are looking for people who are interested in helping with this, and see what that turns up. That's something. So the town doesn't really have a social media policy. So that's something that Marty has brought up. And I think we're gonna have to, our group is probably gonna push this issue. Because that was one of the things that when I spoke with Sarah, she said, you're gonna have to put social media, you're gonna have to use social media because that's where a lot of people are. Okay, so I think so we can do outreach to these specific groups to ask people to join. And then I think we also do the a broader request through email and social media.
Now, do we have to wait until Marty does requests from the first selectman's office, or can we?
I don't think so, because, well, I don't think this is really more like like a task force or working group. This is just a group of people that are gonna advise us. So we are the appointed group, and then we are just having them help us. That's all. So I don't think we need to go through the 2-week process and all that. I think it's more just, in the same way we asked for help with the communication strategy, and we got somebody to step up and help us. So, okay. So and then that group can help create, messaging, contact. And then her suggestion was, after that group is formed, you start thinking about how are you going to do the awareness campaign. using the local newspaper to publish articles. And the way, give you the inside scoop here, the GTD is very open to opinion articles. They're also open to, I'm sure they're open to guest people writing. So I think that makes a lot of sense. So the social media, we would have to, I think, start our own page. And then I think that would make the most sense. And I don't really know what's involved there, because I don't know what, so I have to talk to Marty and Darlene and find out, and I will bring that up tonight when we have our meeting. So so while we do need to launch that, we also need to start accounts. Now, she recommends using targeted ads. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that because we don't have much of a budget. But that might be something for the future.
It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, but we don't have like any budget, because I was not smart enough to I remember bringing it up, but then I didn't make sure we had a budget.
Okay. I mean, when I say cheap, I mean like $10 a pop.
Yeah. Well, unless Marty was willing to let us use the discretionary fund of the selectmen. And I'm not sure that would be possible or not. So, but it might be something further down the road we could do. So the next step is public institutions hosting informational sessions at for instance, a library. Include broadband improvement topics in town hall meetings, distribute brochures, frequently asked questions at public offices in the library, and then invite speakers from places like the American Planning Association and Spectrum and Frontier to come and talk and do presentations. So is there anything else that you guys think should be added in this section?
Well, my feeling is that this is a very good draft to start with. And I wouldn't spend I feel like we shouldn't be spending a whole lot of time trying to refine this, that our initial objective is to form this task force. And then once we get resources in terms of people in the task force, then they can, then we'll be in a much better position to refine and make any changes in this. I think these are good bones. I wouldn't waste a lot of energy trying to, make it that much better.
Okay.
Until the task force. I mean, to me, the highest priority now is how do we reach out to the community and saying, look, we're putting together this task force to do this, and this is the reason it's very important for the town of Kent to do this. And we're asking for volunteers. Will you be willing to sign up?
Right. But we have to approve this document. We are the entity that needs to approve it. And then
That's
we
right.
can pass it off to the task force.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, rather than go through it line by line, I don't see anything in here that I think is unimportant. I think it's broad enough that it pretty much covers the waterfront. Once we get the task force, in place, there's probably some editing that needs to be done. But it's going to be a living, working document.
Okay. Okay. So
Could I just ask a question? How is the task force going to be managed and operated? are they going to vote themselves a chairman and all that? How is that operational piece going to work?
Good question.
I will have to verify that we are allowed to have a task force.
Right.
And, I think that they have, I don't know the answer to that. I don't want to misspeak. Basically it'll be a group of volunteers working on their own and working with us. You know, they really won't be able to do anything without coming back to us. I said that wrong. They would need to coordinate stuff with us. So I'm open to ideas of like how you guys think this can work.
Well, I think Eric brings up a really great point because the thing we don't want to do is to go out and reach out to the community and ask for volunteers and not having thought through how we're going to manage this volunteer group. Because
Right.
we could end up having 20 names and we could begin inflating expectations and creating a real problem for ourselves if we haven't thought through, all right, if 20 people do show up, how are we going to manage the process? Is there going to be a leader? Who's that leader going to be? And, you know, you just can't, you have to have some management skill to manage a large group of people to make sure
Right.
that, you know, that what they get done. Now, if this is something that you're willing to do and you'll be the chairman, Lynn, then that's perfectly fine with me. But I think Eric is right on point. As a group, we need to think through and decide this is the way we're going to manage this process.
I think people from this group should be connected to that group. So if there are people that on our group that want to work on some of these things, that would be ideal. And then we build it out with additional volunteers.
But who will be the chair? That you?
I might be willing to do it, but I mean, I'd like to see who steps up too, you know? It may be that there's other people that would be very enthusiastic about it. So I'm not ruling it out, but I'm also I want to talk to people.
I have a question. Would Marty have some idea of how, if he was going to authorize us to do this, what kind of do's and don'ts and whatever, how he would like to see it set up and managed? Or how the selectmen would like?
I think it's the selectmen because
Oh, okay.
we are
Okay.
basically a group that was appointed by the selectmen.
Okay.
I just don't want to get us in trouble with the Freedom of Information. That's all. That's my hesitation is I don't know if we can have a satellite group that I'm thinking it's okay, but I don't want to say it definitely is okay.
Sure.
Because I don't want those folks to have meetings and take minutes and that kind of thing. Because I don't want them to feel their hands are tied that way. So that's why I'm sort of dancing around this because I hadn't really thought it through about.
So Lynn, this is my suggestion. I think we need to hold off on reaching out to the community and asking for volunteers until we have thought through how we're going to manage and organize this thing and what's the legal structure or structure is going to be. Because once we begin broadcasting and asking for people to volunteer, things could move along pretty quickly and it could get we could disappoint a lot of people and end up, looking like we're acting in bad faith. So I think we need to I think Eric is right on point. I didn't think about it until Eric brought it up, but I think this is the next issue that we need to deal with, and we need to get locked up. And then once we get that locked up, then we reach out to the community in various ways and ask for volunteers.
Okay, but this means we'll be delayed at least a month.
Fine.
Okay,
Right.
I just wanted to make sure you guys understood.
There's
that
there's a
because-
long lead time on all of this stuff.
Okay,
And it's much better that it's much more important that we do it correctly than we do it quickly.
okay. Um. Okay. Okay. But I do think I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you that we should be organized and we should definitely understand what the role of these volunteers would be. But I do think there's also, if there's people in the community that we know are good writers, we can do outreach to them and tell them, we are looking to cover these kinds of topics. Would you be interested in writing something about that? You know?
Yeah, on a one-on-one basis, if we know of people, I think it's fine to reach out to them.
Yeah, because
What I'm talking about is I don't want to send out a broadcast message from
okay,
the selectman's office or from anywhere else until we have agreed that this is what's we are going to be chartered to do, and this is how it's going to work. And, we're well within the framework of good governance. And we thought through that.
okay. All right. Well, we have a meeting tonight, so I will definitely bring it up and get some feedback from the other selectmen. And I just
I
did
mean,
want
Marty, and look, I think Marty will understand this immediately, and say, look, we're going to create a task force that's going to create communications materials in a way it's going to be representing the town of Kent, and we need to make sure that we understand what the guidelines are as to how we go about doing this and what we're allowed to do and what we need to be.
And it's also, it's more nuanced than guidelines, I think. It's probably like, how much oversight do the selectmen want to have over this? Like
Exactly.
how much do they want to see things before it goes out to the public?
Exactly. Look,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. I think that there could be a difference between what the selectmen as selectmen would want from an oversight perspective and what the selectmen might delegate to us as the broadband committee
Right.
to undertake that responsibility. That's just my thought here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I will feel them out and see how comfortable they are. Because they may feel very comfortable with us dealing with all the tech stuff about this, and explaining that to people.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I think there's some low hanging fruit in here that, we could probably get at, before, without, the broader task forces, I think is, especially we're gonna do like some kind of a social media push and some of these other more sophisticated things. But I think when it comes to like writing a series of op-eds or something like that, we have enough expertise, I think, on the committee that's something that could potentially be doable. So, I don't know if we, want to hive off some things in that regard or not, but it seems like some of these are relatively simple.
I would agree with you on that, Bill. I think, that's kind of what I was talking about with Ken, is like reaching out to people who are writers, and it may be matching up somebody who's very technologically savvy with somebody who actually can write it all out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I'm
So-
happy to help on that part, in terms of writing the things so.
that would be great. Okay.
Yeah, so Bill, as I understand what you're talking about is one of the things we need is we kind of need a stump speech as to when we go out and we meet someone who's totally unknowledgeable in broadband and why this should be important to them. We need an outline of points that are be equivalent to a stump speech. That this is how we present the subject to begin the engagement process to people that are unfamiliar with it.
Right, and to explain why it's important.
Yeah, something, it's a very kind of bullet point, concise thing that gets it. And I think we've delineated, these main selling points very well, whether it's healthcare, housing, house prices, just the gamut. So, I think it's relatively easy to kind of put those together and tighten, but I think those are also a good jumping off point if we wanted to start thinking about a series of op-eds that we could run, by various people, and roll those out over a series of weeks or whatever. But I think that's achievable.
I agree. All right.
And then that could be otherwise too. Yeah.
And just to get to your points that you made, Ken, about supporting Frontiers Initiative. I spoke with Don Stein, who ran the CT Connect, who's the chair of that group that has disbanded, and I got some interesting it was an interesting conversation, and I asked him the question about, do you think we have to worry about throwing our weight toward one provider over another? And he said, stick to the technology, talk about the fiber optic. What is fiber optic going to give? And that way you don't have this, you don't have to worry about that you're favoring one over the other, because Charter you're not even offering fiber optic. So you see what I mean?
Look, I think that's fine. I support that.
Yeah.
And I think Waleed's now that we've got a response back from Charter, I think it's good because apparently somebody got the message that they want to keep their customers happy here. They're going to need to engage in a conversation, and so we'll have both providers at the table with beginning a conversation. I think that's great.
Yeah, it definitely is. Probably not at the same time, but hey. Yeah, and I think, I definitely think there's some education, part of this messaging has to be education to, raise people's awareness and understanding of what is fiber optic, versus coax. I mean, we're at the very basic levels. Like, people really, really don't understand how they're being provided by their internet. So, anyway, so I think I don't know if we want to, do you guys feel comfortable? I mean, I will wordsmith this and make sure that, like you said to Ken, the parts that are maybe duplicated, that we're not actually, I'll make sure it's better wording, and then we'll have to approve it, and then we'll go from there.
Right. The other thing, and somebody in the committee that's more technically astute than I am will probably have to do this, but I think we're now at a point where we need to put together a worksheet which shows Charter Spectrum's current offering and prices. And to go to Frontier and find out what their offering is likely to be and their prices. And then immediately convert that into something that's communicable to the average person about, what that means. So if you're a tier 1 Charter customer and you're doing the most basic level, these are the things that you can do, and these are the things that you would have difficulty doing. If you're a tier 2 and you go up in the price level, these are the things, this is the additional flexibility or things you're able to do, and then compare that to Frontier's offering, because we're going to have to be able to do that in order to explain this to the person on the street.
Yeah. And I think if we stick to, like I was saying, coax cable, but I like what you're saying about the different tiers, because people may be able to understand that.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I just don't have the technical know-how to be able to convert the various offerings. I can go through and say, okay, for $70 a month, this is what you get. For $120 a month, this is what you get, et cetera. But I don't know how to convert that into something that is,
yeah, like how many people can be on at a time, how many people can be
Exactly.
gaming and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
Is that information readily available?
I don't know. But some of our guys that are more technologically savvy may be
I
able
can
to.
help with that.
Yeah.
I can do that math for you,
and I
no
was
problem.
thinking, yeah, Rich can.
I'm guessing Khalid and Jonathan also would be helpful with that too.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, that makes sense, because try to bring it down to a level where people will understand what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this idea, the messaging plan, and gonna move on. Oh, I forwarded to you guys the update from BEAD, of Deep's next step in the process, about how they're actually talking about the grants. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens for our community anchor institutions. Did
any of those get any action?
Well, yeah, I mean, the ones that are not served should be getting action.
Okay.
Like the firehouse, Marvelwood, South Kent School, and Marty has some information in his monthly report that the CEN was out starting the process of hooking town hall up. So that's
Okay.
already starting to happen. So, we probably should have tried to get the senior center and the community house listed, and I didn't even think about that. So, I don't know if there'll be, who knows if there'll be another round or something, but something to think about in the future for sure. Well, we got moving on the reports from Spectrum and Frontier. We got that from Khalid via email, and so it's good that he's keeping those connections alive. I did write him back and say, can we get a meeting with Frontier? So I hope we can have a meeting with Charter and Frontier. And it would be neat if to get more information from Frontier about what are their actual, what exactly are their plans for what roads are going to be covered and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I did hear this week that somebody else got a postcard in town and called the number, and the person who answered the phone didn't have their location as listed as being able to be served. It was like they didn't even know what was going on. So that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, I got a postcard in my mailbox. But I don't know whether they're laying line on my road or not.
Yeah. So sort of like a disconnect though, if they're advertising and sending out postcards, and then their customer service people aren't informed enough to be able to actually talk to a person about what's the time frame.
We get
Right.
that kind of stuff all the time. We get advertisements for like the New York Times, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, we can't deliver." And I'm like, "You just advertised delivery."
Yeah.
So I don't think it's uncommon.
Yeah. Not very smart though.
You know, I don't know if you've been listening to the Spectrum TV ads, but one of the things that they proclaim on TV is that they are the largest, they have the largest fiber optic network in rural communities in the country, and they're expanding it aggressively. And this is on national television. This is in their ads.
Yeah. Except in Northwest Connecticut. Okay, so moving on to the outreach of the towns, I actually connected with a couple of people, and I apologize to Eric and Bill because I did not share this all with you, and I'm sorry. I'm not very organized this month. So, so hopefully I can do this quickly. I talked with Cornwall, and Cornwall had a guy named Casey Cook, who is actually the town's representative to their the Cable Television Advisory Council, which is through Optimum. Back in the 80s when the cable came in, the part of the regulation was that they had to have these councils. We have one too, but I haven't looked into who our representative is. But I talked to somebody from Cornwall and somebody from Litchfield, and both of them reference this council. And sometimes the deal is they have to have a cable representative at that meeting, and then they have representatives from all the different towns that are served by that in that region. And sometimes the cable representatives can be helpful. They can actually find out information or get you to the right people who can get you information about what's happening other than just cable TV. So Casey gave some interesting personal information about how he got hooked up by fiber optic Optimum. And he said it was not easy. It took several months. And once again, some customer service issues. But he said the speed is just so much better, upload and download speeds, because he's got fiber. And he also shared that with the recent storm, his internet stayed up, but others in his neighborhood who had Optimum cable lost service. So I don't know if that's across the board, and I know Sarah said that might not always be the way, but several people I've talked to have said it tends to be that the fiber optic is more stable. So we'll see.
It is. It definitely is. It's just, but it's not perfect. I'll say that.
Yeah.
If it were to get damaged in a storm, it would be much harder to fix.
You mean
So-
the cable would be much harder to fix?
Yes, sir. Requires very expensive precision tools, like surgical-like tools to line up the fibers. They're really cool.
So Casey in Cornwall said that Frontier is also running fiber, and if I understood him correctly, it's coming from Torrington. So it's like we've been told that Frontier is coming up from the south, and it's interesting because they're coming across from Torrington. So this is in our shared folder, if you guys want to take a look at it more in depth. But the other thing that I found interesting from Casey was that Optimum has already warned their cable customers that they at some point are going to stop supporting the cable network, and they will force people to move over to the fiber optic. So I found that kind of interesting. And then he mentioned that Optimum is owned by Altice, which has a mobile division, and the 5G network requires fiber for cell service. So it was just sort of an interesting aside that he said that he read that Spectrum was investigating purchasing Optimum, but the company rep had not heard anything about that and could not confirm it. So anyway, as I mentioned, I had a conversation with Don Stein, who was chair of the Connecticut Connect group, which was the one that we'd heard about that formed in Northwest Connecticut. And he basically explained that it fell apart when Frontier started making inroads and saying, we're going to run the fiber. And then the towns sort of said, well, if it's going to come for free, why would towns pay money to run fiber optic? But as we've heard from different towns, Frontier hasn't done 100% coverage. But he gave me a little bit more information about Barkhamsted, and he talked a lot about underground utilities. I don't know how many of our subdivisions actually are fed through underground utilities. Would be interesting to hear from Rick if he's aware of that, or maybe even planning and zoning would have an idea of that. Because apparently it's a lot different for them to run this stuff when it's underground versus the overhead wires. So just something for us to be aware of. I had a super long conversation with John Morisani, who's the chair of the Litchfield Broadband Committee. And he had some similar information about Optimum, because the most of their town is covered by Optimum. And they're actually trying to engage Frontier and come to a contracted agreement with them to provide public Wi-Fi on the Litchfield Green. So the town is planning to use some of its ARPA funds to do that, but it's been a arduous process, according to what he said, that they can't even get Frontier to agree on the contract. So, but he also personally had Optimum fiber as installed and has been very, very happy with it. So, he also gave me some technical information, and I'm not sure I really understood it well enough, but he talked about the switching centers where they apparently Optimum has them set up to run on electrical batteries that are designed to last 6 hours. So if a storm lasts more than 6 hours, they've been promised they will back it up with generators, but they haven't really had a storm that has tested that yet, according to what if I understood him correctly. And the other interesting thing he shared with me is that he was able to get CEN terminated fiber to install public Wi-Fi at the town's 4 firehouses and town hall. So the next time there's a power outage, people will be able to go to the firehouses or town hall and get access to Wi-Fi. So that was kind of interesting. Any questions on any of that?
Do we have anything similar in Kent?
I don't know. I mean, that's a question for Sarah. I don't know.
Do we, well, our issue is that while the library does have CEN, we don't have a generator. So if we've lost power, our equipment is no longer working. Some of our stuff is on backup batteries, but they don't last very long.
Okay.
And that's part of our expansion plan, is to get generators that are like linked right in. They'll just kick right on. So,
Yeah. Okay.
it's in the works, but
And town hall is also gonna have a new generator. So there, if that hasn't even been installed already, I think. So that's.
But would, it might be worth bringing up to the selectmen that, town hall needs to be allocating funds in their budget to create a public Wi-Fi center right there in town hall that can be used by the citizens in the event of a power outage.
Yeah, I think that they've already got public Wi-Fi, but it may be, and once they have the CEN connection all set, which is gonna happen in the next few months, that may be already resolved. So.
Why don't we
something that-
why don't you bring that up and let's clarify that, because I think it's really important. When things go to hell in a handbasket, the citizens of this community need to know, where can we go and get connected to the rest of the world
Mhm.
in order to do critical things, and what's the policy going to be?
Yeah. And, when we did have that 5-day storm, I was saying it was an October storm, and people were like showering at the firehouse. They opened up their Wi-Fi and people were able to use it. But they are not, as far as I know, they are not connected to CEN at the firehouse. So that's one thing we probably could help them make sure that happens. Something I've been thinking I need to talk with the president about, make sure that they're aware of it and everything.
I've got to get off in about 5 minutes, so.
Okay, I am pretty much done.
Okay.
Yep. So we got, I think the next things on the agenda are task list updates. I think the thing we talked about earlier about getting clarity on the communication strategy task force would be like number one.
Hmm.
And then,
Number
and then
two, we need to make a stump speech, or,
right, right.
what Bill said, our talking points,
Right.
getting an outline for talking points. So when we even reach out to people individually, we have we have a message that's clear.
are those talking points to solicit the task force? Excuse me, sorry. Are those talking points to solicit the task force, or are they to move this effort forward?
I think the talking points, it's kind of like an elevator pitch of why is it important to talk about fiber optic?
Right. That's right.
Why is it important? Why is fiber optic important to the future of kids?
Well, I'm asking because I'm wondering if that's actually something that the communications task force that should be part of their charter.
Yeah, but we could start formulating our ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we have these people that are much more tech
Right.
savvy than normal folks in Kent. Bill, is that something you might want to tackle? Like maybe talking to Rich and Jonathan and Khalid and just give it a try,
Yeah.
see what we can
Yeah,
come up
let's
with.
see maybe I could try to do a draft or an outline or something along those lines.
And run it by all four of them and see what, three of them, and see what they have to input to it. I think that would be really a good.
Right. And then the other thing on the open points, Rich, correct me if I put words in your mouth, but I believe you agreed to kind of go over the standard offering of Charter and the proposed offering of Frontier, and then list the price points and what the upload and download speeds are, and then try to translate that into capability to do things.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
When you say capability to do things like video games, voice over IP calls, stuff like that, normal
Yeah.
streaming.
Yeah,
Videos. All right, I got it. Loud and clear.
And if it's possible to figure out how many people can be on at one time, like the difference
That's
between.
a trick questions. It depends on what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you could give examples. I think the
Well,
examples might help people,
Yeah,
you know,
Sure.
like,
The first thing is just to get the various price points from,
I have that.
okay.
I
so you-
have, yeah, I can pass that on to you, Rich. And we have what Frontier is offering as their first go round of like, because they're putting it on the postcard.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna make a note to myself to do that. Okay.
okay.
All
No, no,
right.
you're doing a great job and as a committee, actually, we're getting a lot. It's slow moving, but it seems like we're getting a lot accomplished, so.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we want to, so what do you guys think about our next meeting? Do you want to aim for August 28th
August,
or August 21st? There is an extra week in there because of July has 5 Wednesdays. Would you guys be open to maybe doing it on August 21st?
Either one's fine with me.
Because that would make my life easier because it's hard for when I have a night meeting with the selectmen.
okay,
Okay, let's,
August 21st
yeah, let's aim for August 21st,
at 4 o'clock.
4 PM, yeah.
Okie dokie.
All right.
Okay, I can't do August 21st because I have a 2 o'clock meeting that's gonna last 3 hours, so, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Could
So,
we move the meeting to 5 o'clock, Ken?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, 5 or 5:30.
Which would you prefer?
5:30.
Okay,
That in case this other meeting, because I've got to interview us.
okay. That's
Uh,
fine. 5:30 is fine.
Okay.
All right. So let's adjourn the meeting at 5 o'clock. We did good. Kept it under an hour.
Okie dokie.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate your hard work.
Bye.
Have a nice day,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
You too.